This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Mac and Jack Show. I am filling in for Jack today. I am Jamie Pags, the Philly sports guy. Of course, I am with the host of the show, Mac, over there. What's going on, Mac? Good morning.
Well, right now, I know this has nothing to do with sports, but we're getting killed here with thunderstorms and lightning, and the dam is broke. Everything's going wrong over here today. So hopefully, I make it through this show without getting wet bags.
Right, you know what? I think it's just they felt that the New York area, the whole metropolitan area up there probably needed to get cleaned, and somebody turned on the faucet just to wash all that muck and grime away.
Yeah.
Because there's much rejoicing in New York right now. Both New York football teams happened to win last week. And that the Jets did something that's never been done before. They came back 13 points in the last 2 minutes of a game to win the game. And the Giants have done something that hasn't happened in what seems like, eons, where they have gone 2-0 in the start of a football season. So there has to be, and on top of that, you got Judge hitting 60 home runs.
Right.
The Mets are about to clinch.
Right.
Or the Mets have clinched a playoff spot. There is much rejoicing in Mudville up there. So it's like it's like God is saying, hey, maybe we should clean up this place because there's some stuff going on over there.
Yeah, and isn't it great to be the time to be a New York fan? I don't care what team you like. I don't care, if it's baseball or football. They're all doing great. And as I said, Pags, the Giants not only are going to win the Super Bowl this year, but are the favorite to win the Super Bowl next year.
Well, you could say that all you like. Manifest that. Manifesting. What you believe is a real thing to certain people. I feel like it's good to have hopes and dreams, and it's listen, it's the first 2 weeks of a season. I understand that Giants fans have not used to seeing wins. It was like, oh, you've already gotten what, half of your win total from last year? You guys only had 4 wins. So I mean, in 2 games, so you guys are doing well. You guys are doing well, and I will even say that I wanted you guys to be 2-0 when I was watching the game. I was like, I want you guys to go 0 so that when you go up against Dallas, that you guys are undefeated, so that you guys could be, like a little bit full of yourselves, so that you guys could have a little swagger going into the Dallas week, and hopefully you guys can beat Dallas and go 3-0. Because right now it looks like the Eagles are going to be 3-0.
Oh, well. They didn't lose one, Pags?
We didn't lose one. Nope. In fact, we showed everybody on Monday Night Football. You've seen the memes. I know you've seen the memes. You've seen it out there where everybody in the NFL right now is saying that the Bills and the Eagles look like they're on a collision course for the Super Bowl. And of course, both of them played on Monday Night Football, and both took care of business handily. Monday Night Football.
I think before all said and done, KC will have something to say about that. Back.
I agree with that. I do agree that KC is going to be somebody tough that the Bills are going to have to go through. And it's going to be interesting to see how that all works out. And there's going to be a very interesting test this week, in Buffalo with Miami. Because, look out of nowhere, Tua decides that he knows how to play football, throws 6 touchdowns against what's supposedly a fairly good defense. Yep. But I guess maybe it's, you got to live up to the hype sometimes, and Baltimore just did not do that, giving up 6 touchdown passes.
Yeah, and it looks like Tua is not worried about that injured hip anymore, or anything that goes along with that. He's just throwing the ball great.
Yeah, I mean it's and I feel good. I'm happy for him because
Yeah,
ultimately he's been working really hard. You could tell that he's been working hard at it, trying to do everything he can to be able to, make to right this ship because he's been fighting whatever battles he's had to fight in Miami. And he understands that this is his last opportunity here, or else he's going to be holding clipboards somewhere. So I
yeah,
mean, you can't. He's 2-0 right now. It's interesting how both the NFC and the AFC East are the best divisions in football. They are tied with the most wins right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
Yeah,
And Pags, being a quarterback before it's the most important thing of being a quarterback is to pre-read when the teams come up and you see the defense, even though they try to change and fool you, you pretty much know what the coverage is going to be before you throw the ball.
I agree. And it's as you say that, that's one of the things that everybody's been talking about with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
That Jalen Hurts is doing better on his reads.
yeah,
That the Vikings specifically, the game plan for the Vikings, and it wasn't a bad game plan really, was to contain Hurts. Do
yeah,
not let him get out and beat you with his legs. Make him throw the football. Well, he went ahead and just threw for 82%.
yeah,
82% completion percentage. Was the best. It was probably the best game that he has had as an Eagle
yeah,
was on Monday Night Football. He accounted for 390 total yards and all three touchdowns.
yeah. Well, Pags, unlike you with your absolute disdain for the Giants, I always liked the Eagles. I always thought they were a tough lunchbox, a team that would always be there in the end. And when they went to the Super Bowls, no difference. They were pretty one trick play, but pretty much they were right down the middle with the Patriots.
Right. And not only that, I don't have a disdain for the Giants. I look at the Giants as like the little brother that we all the time. So it's like I feel that when you guys went to the Super Bowl against the Patriots, actually was pulling for you guys. I didn't want to see the Patriots win in either time, and you
Right.
guys took care of business those times. So
Yeah.
it's not a total. Hey, I 100% hate the Giants. Like I said, I look at them as our little brother who we beat up all the time. So
But
and we do.
yeah, I mean, it's always been the real rivalry in the NFC East. I mean, Dallas with Landry's in there, but the Eagles Giants have been going at it since both teams have come about. So they respect each other and they play hard against each other.
Well, I mean, and it is one of the older rivalries. I mean, when you think of the top five rivalries in football, obviously the oldest and probably the one with the most stature is Green Bay and Chicago.
Sure.
But it's followed right behind with the Giants and the Eagles. And even though that the Eagles like to believe, over time it's turned to like Dallas is our biggest rival. It's really not the case. I mean, the players, it's one thing for the fans to feel a certain way, but the players, when you talk to Strahan or LT
Yeah.
or anybody who played on the Eagles during that time when the Giants and the Eagles were both really good teams, it always looked at, I mean, I remember Strahan saying out loud on a broadcast one time, he's like, you know, I was okay. I was kind of okay with Parcells with Coach going over to Dallas, but at least he didn't put on Eagle Green.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He said that out loud on a broadcast one time,
Yeah.
and that's kind of how they feel. It's like it's one say, okay, well, we're going to have a rivalry with Dallas because the fans are willing it to be, but the
Right.
players feel a lot differently. They don't, they just typically don't like each other almost, and it makes for some fun football games, and it definitely makes it unique when they play each other because the Eagles usually find very unique ways to win.
Yeah. 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 Um, but we talk about LT being the greatest defensive player of all time, but we should also include Reggie White in that, right? I mean, the guy was a monster at the end. LT was one of the greatest linebackers ever to play the football. But Reggie White was an animal,
You know,
preacher or not.
it, Sounds like you were listening to the NFC East show last night because we actually had that exact same conversation. Because one of our favorites, I'm going to put that in quotes, Stephen
Yeah,
A. Smith
right.
happened to mention that Micah Parsons is the second coming of LT,
Mm,
and that spurned a comment from Sneaky to come out and say, "What are you talking about? That is not the case at all. That Micah Parsons is not the second coming of LT, and you can't put him above all these other great linebackers and just put him in the LT status. LT was the best and like arguably the best defensive player that ever played the game, and to put
yeah,
another person on that list is tough to do. And
yeah,
I
and
God, I'm sorry.
let's not take nothing away from Michael Parsons, right? He's a great football player, has a great future, but LT, he's not in his league, that's for sure.
Well, and that's exactly how I said. I said, listen, I'm going to give all the respect to LT, but Micah Parsons right now, if he remains on the trajectory that he is on
Right,
over time, I mean, his body of work is just too small to be able to compare the two. Because I
right.
then mentioned Reggie White, and of course, Sneaky's like, Reggie White, hold on. Reggie White was the Minister of Defense, was a great football player and a great on defense, but they didn't change the sport for him like they did LT. And I'm like,
No,
I
that doesn't make
think
sense.
that it doesn't matter. Like I hear what you're saying. You want to pat yourself on the back that there's the Giants player is the best defensive player of all time. I'm saying it's arguable that he
Mhm.
is, that Reggie White actually had the same type of impact as LT did,
Sure,
and of course those guys can only play great when there's other guys around them that also play great. I mean,
right.
you got to think about some of the guys that were on that Giants defense. You had Carl Banks. You had that defensive line was
Oh
also
yeah,
a great defensive line. So
Leonard
you had
Marshall,
that
yeah, Leonard Marshall, Jim Burt, George Martin. Oh my God, these guys were awesome.
right. And so and then now you have LT who is running amok, in the linebacker area. I mean,
Sure,
it makes sense. Like I understand they're like, hey, they developed a position for him. Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, they've been playing defenses forever. They had that position for him.
sure.
He was a great player. I can't argue that. He was
Yeah,
an amazing football player and one that will always be in the argument for the best defensive player of all time.
no doubt, no doubt. And
So I
Harry Carson, the middle linebacker. I mean, who was better than him? Maybe you could throw Buckus or a couple other in there, but Harry Carson ruled that locker room and ruled the field when he was playing.
right, the same thing. Like Junior Seau was also a
Yeah,
fantastic middle linebacker. Erlacher also was.
yeah,
These were all great guys. I do believe that Seau or Erlacher can hold a candle to LT. You know what I mean? I think that they are definitely a tier below LT. You know what
yeah,
I mean? When you talk about the greatest players by position on defense, I
right,
think that you automatically have to say defensive end was Reggie White. And I think that when you say outside linebacker, you have to say LT. Those
right,
are the two best at their position of
right.
all time on the defense.
Agreed.
And then you think about safeties and cornerbacks and stuff like that. It'd be interesting to say who is the greatest. Yeah, that might be one of the a good debate question.
Right,
Who are the greatest position players of all time
right.
in in sports? And,
Yeah,
and we can do that. Who is going to be our number? Our team, the
yeah.
team that would always win Super Bowls and all that other stuff. If we were to do those types of questions, because there's a lot of players that make the list, but
Sure.
only one could be the GOAT.
Right. And can you
So,
imagine having the Pittsburgh Steelers on your team with Mean Joe Green? Oh my God, It was another animal.
Yeah, I mean that's the steel curtain defense. But see, like, and now this was before my time. But then you had the purple people eaters. I mean,
Sure.
there was always a great defense. That yeah, the Dallas Doomsday defense.
Yep.
There was always these nicknames for great defenses, and
Yes.
that's how you could tell that if you're a great defense because you got a nickname.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
the Eagles were the gangrene. You know,
Yep.
uh, I don't know what the Giants defense was called. It was
Big blue wrecking crew.
the Rats. But I kind of thought that was the case.
Yeah.
But then you have the Doomsday defense, the Steel Curtain. Um, and then
Yeah.
I don't really think even that Bears, that 1985 Bears defense, they didn't really have a nickname for that, and they were one of the best of all time too. But
No,
it's like
the older Bears had monsters of the Midway, but they didn't have that one.
yeah, that was with Butkus. Yeah,
Right.
Butkus was in the Monsters of the Midway and such like that. They didn't have that for 1985, and really, like I said, that could be arguably considered one of the best defenses of all time.
No doubt.
Yeah, I look at really the '91 Eagles
Yeah.
being one of the best of all time when I think they were the last defense to have the best against the rush, the best against the pass.
Yeah.
That they had the best yardage and the best points against and stuff like that. It's unfortunate that year was also the fog in Chicago decided to come down because I think we would have won that game handily. But you can't. Things happen for a reason. So,
Right.
but let's talk a little bit about what's going on. Obviously, we'll touch on football since we got football games going on, and it's been a half a week, and I'm sure everybody's started to move forward to the next week's games. But there were some cool games to kind of watch. The Patriots. Who thought the Patriots were going to beat the Steelers? It looked like that was going to be a mess, but that was kind of a surprise. You have the debacle in New Orleans that occurred. That with Arians being on the field and starting a fight with Lattimore, or I think that's his name. It was Lattimore, and then Mike Evans coming out of nowhere. I'll be honest. I mean, I know Lattimore. When if you've watched the NFL and you've watched the Saints at all, Lattimore is the guy who's going to be chirping some. And what is Arians? First of all, what is Arians? He's allowed on the field, but what is he doing acting like a coach in that position?
Right.
And yelling back and forth with the player. And then, then you got Brady in, and then you got the running back tuning in. And then out of nowhere, Michael Evans just comes along and just shoves Lattimore. I'm surprised he wasn't suspended for more games. When in the NHL, they created a penalty for that, for the third man in, where it's a game misconduct and it's a game suspension automatic. Now, in football, you don't really see that very much. So he definitely deserved the one game, Michael Evans. You shouldn't have gotten in the middle of that. It's like, hey, listen, you walk over there and you start, you do it on a little bit of a different level. He just went over there and literally just, he could have really gotten hurt there. He wasn't expecting it. He got blindsided there. Very interesting situation. And then the NFL sent a letter to Arians yesterday saying, maybe you should stay in the booth, old man. Don't go out there and acting like you're a coach. You retired, if you remember correctly there, old man. And I'm a big Arians fan, but I don't when stuff like that occurs. You know what I mean? I think that was, I look at that as like dirty pool. You know what I mean? Like it's just, no need to try to start that type of stuff. But
agreed, Pat.
And then, of course, the Jets coming back and scoring 13 points. Where's Jack when we need him? Scoring 13 points in the last 2 minutes to win the game against the Browns. That is probably the biggest surprise of the week. The Browns, it shows exactly where the Browns are, but it may also show exactly where the Jets are.
True. I mean, the Jets just looked like a better team, offensively, defensively, special teams.
Well, they didn't look it like that for most of the game.
That's true. It's true.
You
Last
know,
quarter.
and yeah, that fourth quarter they were able to turn it on, get 17 points in that quarter, and all of a sudden, literally 14 points or 14 points in the last 2 minutes of the game. First
Yep.
time ever in NFL history that somebody's come back from 13 minutes left.
Yeah.
The last time there was a comeback like that, I think it was 7 minutes and 48 seconds left, and we came back from 21 points down against, I think it was the New York Giants.
Thanks, Max. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there because that was a punt return by one Deshaun Jackson when Coughlin turned a different shade of red that day, running onto the field.
I hated him. I hated him so bad. And you knew he was going to do it. Giants knew he was going to do it. I mean, they should have probably tackled him when he was running down the sideline. That's the only way to stop that guy.
Yep. It was, I remember that. It was, and that was the Miracle of the Meadowland 3. Everybody likes to call that Miracle of the Meadowland 2, but everybody forgets about when Brian Westbrook did it to you guys. I'll still go as far as to say that is my favorite play of all time. And listen, everybody loves the Philly special, but that play that when the Giants were up 13-7, and he ran that punt back, I'll never forget that for as long as I live. I have a whole story behind that. I'm not going to go into that story right now, but I tell you, it is my all-time favorite play of the Eagles that has ever occurred, and I'll never forget that play.
Listen, I mean, when you had the offensive coordinator telling them to hand off to Zonka, Pisarcik just wanted to take a knee, take the victory formation, but he did what his coach said. And, of course, he went on to play with the Eagles after that, didn't he?
Yeah, well, yes, he did. It was, I think, the following year. I think in the very next year he was holding the clipboard for Jaws. But obviously, that was such a weirdo play. And right after that, there was no more of that. No more handing the ball off. None of that. You're going to just take a knee and run the clock out. So. Interesting how the world works. But you know what? There's always been like these amazing moments of time where the Eagles are beating the Giants. It's just some of those things that have occurred. I mean, you think one's memorialized in a movie with Invincible, with Vince Papale going down there. It was the first win that created the first win for the Eagles. For Dick Vermeil. It started that whole thing. Yeah, because that was in week 2 at home against the Giants. And, literally that's what happens. And the next thing you know, it's, it's now put in movies and memorialized that way. So moving on, I mean, the Dolphins over the Ravens. I mean, that was another game. I watched that game. I was paying attention. The Dolphins scoring 28 points in the fourth quarter to come back and win that game. Talk about a complete letdown of a team. Baltimore, the offense, possibly being one of the better defenses to give up that many points. That really was a surprise, a really big surprise to be able to do that type of stuff. It's just like, wow. I mean, and then of course, on my fantasy, all 3 fantasy teams that I went up against had Tyreek Hill on their team. Literally, all 3 had Tyreek Hill. So I lost all 3 of my fantasy football matchups this week because 3 of the teams I went up against had Tyreek Hill. The other 2 of the teams had Josh Allen.
Wow.
So from Monday Night Football, who also scored like 1,000 points. Between the two of those guys, they scored like 100 points between them. And well, obviously I was going to lose those games. So
let's go back to the Baltimore game real quick. Jackson has that big run. He gets the touchdown. He's all excited. But in that circumstance, Pags, You want ball control, right? You want to eat up the clock. You want to take your time. Don't give the team time to work with at the end. And that's what you got to do. I mean, it's all great that he ran for that touchdown, but it's so quick that the defense is right back on the field, and that's
Well,
just
yeah,
not
but
the way.
and let's talk about that in a real sense. He scored that touchdown. There was only 38 seconds left in the
True,
third quarter.
true,
So I mean, it's 38-14 right then.
right.
You're up by 24 points. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous that to let up that many touchdowns. I mean, they went down. They scored fairly quickly on that next drive. They it was only a 3-minute drive for them, and they got that touchdown. And then they wind up scoring again, and they wind up scoring 3 touchdowns from 7:54, 7 minutes and 54 seconds. They were down by as much as at that point they were down by 14. They wind up kicking a field goal. It was like 17, but they were down by 24 points at one point.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they scored 3 touchdowns. They get a field goal, and then they scored another touchdown. And I don't know. I don't know. I feel that was a mess. That was a mess, and they got to clean that up. I mean, maybe that's really telling you exactly where Baltimore is.
Yeah.
And Baltimore isn't as good as up to this point.
I agree. I agree with
So the game that probably made me feel best about the Eagles' chances on Monday night when I watched the Commanders versus the Lions.
that. Wow.
When I saw that game and I saw how the Lions were just crushing. They were just crushing the Commanders. I mean, the Commanders came back a little bit in that fourth quarter, second half in total, where they scored all their points. They scored 27 points in the second half. They had a terrible first half, down 22-0 going into the half. But Detroit is a real team. They are a real team here. And after watching that game, it makes me wonder if they're not the best team in the NFC North. Yeah, because after when you saw the Vikings in Green Bay, I was like, okay. I thought the Vikings might be the toast of that division, but after playing them, I'm like, Justin who?
Right.
Dalvin who?
Right.
Kirk Cousins is absolutely Kirk Cousins because every time he's got a spotlight on him, he doesn't like to do well.
Right.
Probably could have thrown 6 all day because he was not throwing the ball very well. So he was doing what he does best, killing coaches. That's what he does. He kills coaches.
And back to Goff for a minute, right? They used to say he's just a game manager. Well, he's proven them all wrong now. He's a playmaker. I mean, maybe with the Rams he was, but with Detroit Lions, he's a playmaker. He brings the team down. He leads the team. He's got a great arm, very accurate. So it was time to rethink our thought on Goff. That's for sure.
Well, you know what? It's interesting that there's certain quarterbacks that are stepping up that absolutely needed to step up, and are right now as it's early in the season. It's the first 2 weeks. We talk about this as I've been saying that this is still preseason. Really, this all counts, but it's preseason. That at the first 4 games, it determines kind of how the rest of the season's going to go. But you expect that some of the things that you see now, you're not going to see later on. But right now, Goff is proving it. Tua is proving it. And they're both showing it pretty well by scoring all the points. I mean, think about that. I mean, the Detroit Lions right now, I think, are either 1 or 2 in scoring. They have 71 points. I think 72. I think 72 or even more, maybe Buffalo. But Detroit's like number 2 in scoring points.
So are we talking?
That's a big deal.
Are we talking a possible Super Bowl here, Pags? Are we saying that maybe Detroit plays Miami for the Super Bowl?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay.
No. Come on now. Let's be for real. I mean, I think Miami's going to take a real step. I think that the NFL is about to go through a changing of the guard of some sort. That
Sure.
teams that you think are perennial, playoff teams are not going to make it. Obviously, the Titans are having a bad situation. The
Yeah.
Colts are definitely not doing very well right now. I, you have, I think about Green Bay. I mean, they looked good against Chicago, but I think Chicago got lucky by having, 10,000 gallons of water poured on their field, for, against the 49ers. And that's why they won that game. It didn't have anything else to do. I think they were the beneficiary of bad weather.
Sure.
Short of that I don't think that they probably don't win that game. And now, don't the 49ers look like they are, genius in making sure that Garoppolo re-signs with them? I mean,
Hmm.
imagine if they got rid of Garoppolo, if they traded Garoppolo, and you have what happened on Sunday with Trey Lance, where he's out
Yeah.
for the season. Oh my
Yeah.
God, there would have been a revolt. They'd have blown up, you know, Alcatraz. Alcatraz would be off the map. Half of San Francisco would be gone because of all of what's going on over there. So
Yeah.
it just lots of things going on in the NFL. Another big surprise. Doug Peterson gets his first win. But it's not as big surprise if you are a Jaguars fan, because the Colts can't seem to beat the Jaguars they can't buy a win against the Jags.
No.
Doesn't matter
No.
whether the Jags are good or not. I think that's 5 wins in a row
Yeah.
from the Jaguars against the Colts.
Yeah.
And
And Peterson, you're going to have to. I mean, you're going to see how well this guy, being a former quarterback, bonds with their quarterback, and calls plays that are beneficial to him and the team. So Peterson's going to do some great things there. So
I agree. And I think that you're going to start to see, like, I look at this more like Trevor Lawrence's rookie year. I
sure.
feel like last year was just it was like his sixth year or fifth year of college, with the way
Yeah.
with Urban Meyer being there, that it had more of a college feel. And you see exactly what happens when college teams play against the NFL, that they're going to lose. And that's
Sure.
exactly what kind of happened there. Now you've got Doug Peterson, who has kind of brought this team into uh, back out of the college doldrums,
Hmm.
and starting a new culture over there. It doesn't matter what Sneaky likes to say about him in terms of awesome or whatever. It's it is what it is. Hey, I know that the New York Giants are still crying about the fact that Peterson threw that game and had Washington win the
I'm done.
division there, but.
I'm done with that, Pat. I'm all done with
Not all right. Good. I'm glad, because I'm all out of tissues over here. So,
that.
uh,
Oh,
you know,
man.
and then but I like the Jaguars a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised right now if there's a whole big changing of the guard there, that the Jaguars could compete for
Hmm.
that division,
Hmm.
just
I
because I
agree.
think all the other teams are not that good.
I agree with that.
Then you have the Rams squeezing one out against the Falcons. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
thought that was Atlanta was coming back there. Obviously, I think that the Rams had the handle on that game, but they let the Falcons back in it.
Hmm.
They got nervous there. Then you had the 49ers and the Seahawks. I think that the Seahawks played their Super Bowl in Week 1
Yeah.
against Denver, and that's the end of that. That was
Yeah.
now you're going to see the real Seahawks team for the rest of the season there.
I agree. I agree, Pat.
Yeah, the Broncos over the Texans. I
Hmm.
thought that the Texans were going to win that game. When you
Hmm.
watched that game and I saw it on the red zone. I thought that the Texans were. Yeah, I told you. I told you what I told you about Denver. I think Denver's frauds,
Yeah.
and they almost proved it. It's obviously Russell Wilson is not the Russell Wilson of old. They're not scoring a lot of points. I don't think they're going to score a lot of points. Now, now they've got that. I mean, it's Judy is down for them over there.
Yeah.
He's injured in Denver, so I mean that could be a big deal going forward. The Raiders, again, another team that I didn't trust. I think that they wind up, you know, not doing so well. I don't think that they're going to have a really. They were winning that game, gave it up to the Cardinals.
I know. I know.
So, and then you
Listen,
have the smack heard around the world where what's his face got his face smacked. When I look at that, I thought it Cardinals fan trying to hug him, and he just kind of grabbed his face, and he just in the process it wound up getting slapped. I think that was 100% accidental, and I don't think it was a Raiders fan that went to smack him in the face.
No,
that's and I think that's what the media made it out to look that way. And then when you look at the replay enough, you can kind of tell it was a Cardinals fan who tried to grab him, and in the process, his wrist got like caught and it made a smack to his face. Yeah. I don't think it had anything beyond that. So
no.
Again, trying to make make mountains out of molehills.
That's what they do, Pags. That's what that news does, man. You
know, the Bengals and the Cowboys. Again, that was another game where the Bengals are what we think they are. I think that's the case. I think that this is the Bengals are going to go as far as Joe Burrow takes them.
Yeah.
But Joe Burrow can't block for himself.
Nope.
And that's going to be the problem. You can't. I mean, he's got 13 sacks already on the year.
Yeah.
And that's he's going to wind up getting hurt because of all the times that he gets that they just let people in. They have turnstiles for offensive linemen. And it's just that the defenses are teeing off on the Bengals. You're not going to be able to do that. You've got bullseyes on your back because you were in the Super Bowl last year, and I don't know that Burrows has got it all like that to be able to make it happen.
I agree, Pags, and he can't run and he can't catch. So Mixon and Chase are going to have to do a lot better job for Burrows.
So. Right. Well, and like I said, the Cowboys have a good defense. The Cowboys have a really good defense. So, and that's going to be the Cowboys. That's how they're going to wind up staying. It's going to be the defense keeping them in games because I don't believe that the Cowboys offense is any good. I think that even with Dak coming back, you're not going to be able, they just don't have the receivers. They do not have, they only have a defense, and the defense is going to keep them in games.
Yeah,
and ultimately, it's the second time that they kept a team under 20 points. Tampa Bay only scored 19. The Bengals scored 17. It'll be interesting to see what the Giants do because the Giants haven't scored a lot of points either.
True.
So it'll be I think it's going to be a tough matchup this Monday night.
I agree. Again, Pags, I agree with you.
Yeah, you got the Packers and the Bears. Obviously, I don't think the Bears were any good, and the Packers kind of showed that Aaron Rodgers does own Chicago in every which way.
Yes, he does.
And then, of course, you got the Eagles and the Vikings. That was supposed to be, this, and both Monday Night Football games were amazing games if they were anywhere on the schedule. Bills versus the Titans. You're expecting that to be like a knockdown, drag-out fight. And the Bills just never looked back. And how about the Eagles? The Eagles have not been behind at all this season yet.
Yeah, so and that's just showing how awesome their offense this year and how quick their defense makes the stops and gets it back to them. So.
Right. So it's funny because I was talking about how if I was the Commanders going up against the Eagles this week, that if I won the toss, normally you defer. That's like the trend right now. But if I was Washington and I won the toss, I would take the ball and I would go the first play of the game. I would go long to McLaurin, and see if you can get on the board and start, just put the Eagles back on their heels a little bit. I think that's what you're going to need to do right now, because the last time the Eagles had 450 yards of offense 2 weeks in a row was the NFC Championship game in the Super Bowl.
Wow.
So, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. But the Bills are absolutely for real.
Yeah.
The Bills are not a joke, and they're going to be tough. They're going to be a tough opponent this year. The way around.
With Josh Allen, who has become a great pocket passer, and of course is one of the best running quarterbacks in the league. Gets design running plays for him, throws people down with straight arms. I mean, the guy is awesome. Diggs is awesome. He can catch anything you throw his way. He's quick and fast and runs the great routes. They even got some good tight ends this year, Pags. Nobody talks about that, but they got some good tight ends in Buffalo now.
Yeah, I mean, they have a good running back. I mean, that running back goes unnoticed because you have Diggs and you have Allen, and there's a lot of good pieces. That offensive line never gets enough credit because again, you've got Diggs and Allen and such like that. But he's got the time to be able to throw the ball back there. So when you have those pieces in place, you're going to win games. You're going to win games. But it's you're right. You're right, Carlos. It is only game 3, and this is the countable preseason.
Sure,
this is countable preseason. We're not out yet. Like this is let's see what happens in week 5 when everybody's warmed up now and up to NFL speed, because it takes 4 games to make that happen. So
and game 3 is just important as the last game, right? I mean, you got to win it. You got to get out there and you got to win the games right away, Carlos. So I agree with you.
Right. So like I said, and they're good. That the Bills are going down to Miami, and they are going down as a 6-point favorite down in Miami. That's going to be a game to watch this week. I think that's going to be a fun one to watch. I also like to see the Detroit Lions against the Vikings. Let's see what the Lions really have, and are they as good as they appear to be?
Yeah.
Because like I said, when it wasn't, I was nervous about Monday Night Football until I watched the Lions Commanders game. And then I saw exactly what the Lions were doing, and I'm like, wow, like the Eagles really got away with one there and was able to win that game and hold the Lions off, because the Lions are actually a much better team than advertised. Everybody's thinking that they were going to go 5-12 or 6-11, maybe as good as 7-10. They're talking a little bit of a different tune right now in Detroit. And they're going to see how much for real this week against the Vikings.
And talk about how long it's been. The 1960 Lions beat the Packers in a championship game when they had Alex Karras.
I had to have been 61, because in 1960 the Eagles won the championship.
Yeah, that's right.
So it might have been 61. Actually, I think it was 57, because now that I'm remembering, because I know all the super fans, and one of my good friends up in Detroit is a super fan, and he has a banner in his house, and it shows the 4 championships that the Detroit Lions have, and I think the last one was in 1957. So I think that may have been when they beat the Packers, and that was probably pre-Lombardi. Lombardi was probably still coaching for the Giants at that point.
Yeah, he was.
So. But it's as we're talking here. Yeah, it's. I agree. You know what? It's going to. The Bills still have some stuff to prove.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'm not worried. The Cowboys are always doing what Cowboys do. You know what I mean? So let's be for real, Carlos. We don't even have to bring them up. The Cowboys are good at what they do. I hope that coach remains their coach for all time, because I think he's terrible. I think he's a horrible coach, and I'm excited for this season moving forward. Obviously, the Eagles look like a real team. I think the NFC East in total right now is going to be a great. It's going to be a great year, and it's interesting because both. To make sure that is the case. Where are the Jets playing this week? Oh, the Jets are playing the Bengals. So, because I wanted to say, because obviously the NFC East is playing against each other. There's going to be 2 losers this week. And I thought the AFC was also doing the same thing, because obviously it's the Bills and the Dolphins, but the Patriots are going up against the Ravens, and the Jets are going up against the Bengals. So, I mean, it's possible that they could still remain the best teams, but obviously there's going to be two teams that have to lose in the NFC East, where not, you could have three teams win in the AFC East. So we'll say the Jets are favored in Cincy. No. No, no,
Wow.
no, 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 no. Actually, first off, Cincinnati's going to New York, and it's 5.5. Cincinnati's favored by 5.5. So,
Okay, that makes
as
sense.
as yeah, there's a couple of surprises here. Obviously, the Giants being favored on Monday Night Football by 1.5. That's a
Yeah,
big one.
I would agree. I would agree that's kind of crazy because Dallas is the Cowboys and they do score a lot of points. So I do agree with that, Pat.
Well, you know what? I wonder if playing, I'd be willing to bet that may go the other way, that it would be the Cowboys favored by 1.5, that there would be a 3-point swing with that if Dak was playing. But Dak isn't playing. So you got
Okay.
Cooper Rush, who showed himself as serviceable last week.
Mm-hmm.
He did well, but I think that their receivers are just not very good. When your number one receiver is CeeDee Lamb, it's not very strong for you.
And the other running back for the Cowboys, not Zeke, what's his name?
Pollard.
Pollard. Even though he looks like he's going to have a great year, it doesn't look like Zeke's going to do too much back. So,
I think that if you remember me asking all the Cowboys fans, I said, if you had the opportunity to get a second or a third round pick for Zeke Elliott, would you do it? They all said no.
right.
By the end of this year, they're gonna wish that they did.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer of that.
Yeah.
So, other surprises in terms of wow. Here you go. This is an interesting one. I've never seen this before in my life. The Falcons the Seahawks are a half a point favorite. A half a point favorite against the Falcons.
The people that set the points are drinking again, Pags. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, that's
Stay off the
something. They
hooch.
are drinking something. They are drinking something.
Yes.
I mean, other surprise lines. The Ravens given 3 to the Patriots at home. Home dogs. I think that makes some sense. The Ravens are still scoring a lot of points, and that they're going to be angry. I expect that their defense is going to come up a little bit better against the Patriots than it will against the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins really just needed to get it together, and that's why they were able to score 4 touchdowns. They were able to figure out that defense and then just go long, and that's what needed to have happen.
Yeah.
They needed to go with the long ball.
And again, let's remember it's team, right? I mean, the defense in Miami is out of sight. Their offense is great. Their special teams are playing great. They're being coached well, and their players are performing what they got. Their tasks right. So it's a team effort. We always, we're looking for the ball. We're looking who the stars are. The trenches, as you said, that's where the game's won. It's not won by the quarterback, folks.
Well, and it's interesting. This is the week of the home dog. As I'm looking at these over-unders, the Commanders are a home dog. The Patriots are a home dog. The Panthers are a home dog. The Colts are a home dog. The Dolphins are a home dog. They're a home dog. The Titans are a home dog. The Cardinals and the Broncos, all home dogs this week. I tell you, I don't expect all these home dogs to win. But when you're a home dog and, like I said, this many, I would do like round robins on teasers here. I think that you could you pick the right teams, these home dogs, you could probably go money line on these because I think half of these teams, half of the home dogs are going to wind up winning this week. The fact that the Titans are a home dog against the Raiders, they're still the Titans. They're still the Titans. Right. You know what I mean? So I feel that they are going to be able to compete against there. I'm not a betting man. I don't gamble. But like I said, I was 10 out of 16 against the spread last week. And I was surprised at how well I did. I can't call an over and under to save my life. But my team, I literally I wrote all my picks down. At the 1 o'clock games, I got every over under wrong. Every single one of those
Wow.
wrong. It was like that's hard to do. That is absolutely
It
difficult to
is.
do. To go seven for 7 wrong. Like
Yes.
figure
Yes.
maybe you get one right by just guessing. But every single one wrong was actually very interesting to me that I was able to do that. But I actually did very well picking the games, and that was
Right.
with the spreads. So,
Right.
and of course, I'm still alive in the suicide pool.
Yes,
My
you are. I
team
think
was able to make it happen.
is Jim Jeffcoat the only one with you now?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
And
Very
Jim
nice.
Jeffcoat also. Because I know that we did we give Byron a pick? I'm not sure who he chose.
No. I mean, it's crazy because he wanted to play this so bad and really hasn't done anything. Hasn't contacted me. Nothing.
I remember we asked him on Friday, and
Mm-hmm.
he might have been out too. For some reason, I think he chose the Browns. That he thought that the Browns were going to win it and against the Jets. I'm not 100% certain, but I'll have to go back and look at the tape. Got to go back to the tape. Rewind the tape. Let's find out exactly what he said.
Right.
But it's going to be a very interesting week. It's so awesome when football is back.
Ain't it?
When we get to talk about this type of stuff. It's like, oh, here it is. We haven't really even scratched the surface of what happened this week yet because we're still talking about last Sunday, and this upcoming Sunday, and we've already gone just about an hour through the show. So, and of course, there's a game tonight. There's a game tonight, the Steelers versus the Browns, which I also think is going to be a really good game. That was the other thing that I took into that this they have chosen very good games for Thursday night football this year. That it's no longer this, cream puff versus this killer. It's these are good games that are going to be playing. And I expect the Steelers-Browns game to be a tough game here. Browns are a 4-point favorite over under at 38.
Wow,
I don't know. I like the Steelers here a little bit. Just a little bit.
Too. I do too. I think they got a better offense than the Browns. That's about it. But that's what I think they have. Mr. Trubisky, great. I mean, how can you not go wrong? Well, this is on Cleveland side now. You got 2 great running backs too. So maybe it's a wash, Bax.
Yeah, I mean, and they're going to need to really rely on their running backs. They have not. The running backs did not really come through very well last week. And when you we have to pass the ball over there in Cleveland, I just don't think it's going to go very well. You do not have Deshaun Watson back there until week 11, and you have to stay afloat and stay relevant for that time, that amount of time. However, it seems like they're getting some help. Obviously, the Patriots beat the Steelers last week. Everybody, I think, only. Cincinnati is the only team that does not have a win in that division, so everybody's tied right now, 1-1. That's going to be the AFC North is going to be a crapshoot, and because of that, it could be a team that's 8-9 makes it to the playoffs, and that could be the Steelers. That could be the Steelers.
Very possible.
It depends on how Cleveland can stay afloat moving forward here. And seeing if let's see what happens. I mean, obviously he's going to start tonight, Thursday night football. I'm not going to start to see the game until the very end because I'm going to be at a baseball game. Tonight starts a very big series, the last home series for the Phillies against the Braves. So how about that? And that's a good segue. We'll go talking about that right after these commercial messages where we can spend a few minutes, get our sponsors taken care of here, and then we'll come back and start talking about baseball because there is other sports happening here right now. There's some baseball going on. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty. People are starting to clinch playoff spots and all that stuff. So let's talk about that right after these commercial messages. Please stand by.
Excellent.
This is a tailgate? This is a tailgate? Maybe Dietz and Watson's can spice this tailgate up. Fire in the hole! Now this is a party! Yeah! That's what we're talking about! That's right! Let's go! Yeah! With Dietz and Watson's, it's always a party! Go Birds! Yeah!
A great day of music for an amazing cause. Saturday, September 24th, don't miss Yacht Stock River Jam. 24 bands on 2 stages, starring Sarah Spicer.
Love will hit you hard, like a fist through the wall, like a semi-automatic, it'll leave a scar. Love will hit you hard, like a hook to the right.
And Audra McLaughlin.
I don't want to feel the sun, I just want to feel the rain. Tread whiskey all night long. Drown
With special guest Vixen 77.
days I cry. Some days I know, some days I won't.
Yacht Stock benefits Shriners Hospitals for Children Philadelphia.
Some days I won't.
Get your tickets now at yachtstock.org.
Some days I won't.
Yacht Stock River Jam, September 24th at West End Boat Club, just off 95 in Essington.
Some days I don't.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get any?
And we are back. Lots of stuff going on there. Obviously, this Saturday I am going to be at Yacht Stock. Yacht Stock is a great cause. Everything goes to Shriners Hospital. This has been going on for 23 years. They have all those different bands, and then they've got, like I said, they've got Sarah Spicer and Sarah McLaughlin, I think, whatever her name is, Audrey McLaughlin. A couple of great acts there. Vixen 7. These are great bands. Come out all day long and get to hang with us. It's going to be a great time. Had by all.
Great job.
So, anyways, so we're coming down. I think there's 14 games left in baseball.
Right.
You know, and it's interesting because the Mets right now hold a 1-game lead against the Braves, and that one of these games gets made up today. I think that the Mets have the day off where the Braves play against the Phillies. And like I said, I don't think the Braves have a day off between now and then, because that's, like I said, they have 2 games in hand. They have to win both these games to tie the Mets. And at that point, I'm not sure who wins. I think the Braves actually hold the tiebreaker against the Mets. No, we figured that out. The Mets have the tiebreaker against the Braves. So that they're going to have to win those 2 games and win get an extra game ahead of the Mets to win that division, because a tie is not going to do it for them. They're going to wind up still with the number 1 wild card. But both of those teams have made the playoffs. The magic number for the Phillies is 11. The magic number for the Padres, I believe, is 10 or 9. Yeah. So, and the they beat the Cardinals yesterday. The Padres all of a sudden playing some pretty good ball. They wound up. Let me see how many wins in a row they've had. They've won 5 in a row.
There you go.
So, they've only won 6 of their last 10, so they weren't doing so great beforehand. But the last 5 games, they've been putting it together. And in that game specifically, their pitcher took a no-hitter into the 7th inning.
Right.
So, did pretty well, but wound up winning that game 1-0 against. I think that the Cardinals, obviously the Cardinals are not going to be able to catch either the Mets, Braves or the Dodgers. The Dodgers have over 100 wins at this point right now. That means that whoever gets that third wild card is going to wind up playing the Cardinals. I think that the Phillies are going to wind up in that third spot, and I think that's the best spot to be in, to be honest.
Yeah.
I relish the opportunity to play against the Cardinals in a 3-game playoff series.
Yeah,
I think that the Cardinals can get beaten there.
Yeah, I think you got better bats than the Cardinals, even though they got, the home run leader there that's on his way to 7 home runs. I still think you got better bats overall. Schwarber, sorry, and I think your pitching is better too, Pax.
Well, I think that these teams are very similarly built, and I think that the Cardinals just they have a couple of good guys at the plate. Obviously, you got Goldschmidt, who's doing pretty well for them, and they have another guy who's batting pretty well in the average department. But ultimately, when we played them, I think we won that season series, and I'd like to play them. I would rather play them than play the Braves right now.
Definitely.
But we're going to get a real good idea on what's going on because, we finally won a game against an AL team. Ever since the Angels, it seems like we couldn't beat an AL team. We couldn't buy a win. Because we wound up winning in Seattle. And then we went and played against the Angels, and then we swept them here. But we've lost 4 to the Rangers. We lost a few, 4 to Toronto. 3 to Toronto. We wound up winning the 4th game. So we finally were able to break the schneid of the AL losses to get a walk-off win yesterday.
Isn't it weird, Pax, that the teams that do have that kind of hold on you, that kind of, they kind of have that thing in the air where they're going to beat you all the time. That's weird. I mean, you got a better team. I know they're all professional, but that you have a better team and they still get you. It's crazy.
Yeah. But listen, when right after the All-Star break, the Cubs were in town and swept us. And that was after us coming going into the All-Star break with like a 5-game winning streak.
Yeah.
And then the Cubs came in and swept us. Interestingly enough, after this Braves series, we go to Chicago, for the Cubs. And there's got to be a little bit of payback there. We have to get those wins. It's going to be important because, this series is going to be tough against Atlanta. Obviously, they just swept us in Atlanta. I'd like for them to get 3 or 4 here. That's going to be tough to do. Atlanta is playing very strong right now, and it's going to be a really tough time to try to get that. And ultimately, the Mets are hoping that the Phillies decide to play this weekend, this 4-game series. If they just win today, it actually gives them that game and a half. That means there's just more games that the Braves have to win. And the Braves are playing some pretty good ball, although they lost yesterday to the Nationals. The Braves have, they've won 6 of their last 10, but they've been playing pretty well. And it seems like every time the Mets win, the Braves win. So they've been holding serve as it was.
Right.
Over there. The Brewers, I think the Brewers did beat the Mets yesterday, but I think the Brewers are out of it. The Brewers have been kept around right now because the Phillies have not done very well. The Phillies themselves have, they said they just got off of a 5-game losing streak. They've been 5-5 in their last 10. So they had a 5-game winning streak followed by a 5-game losing streak. We need to be able to put some distance between us and the Brewers. The Brewers going into today are they playing today? Yeah, they play the Reds. So, if you want to get healthy, you play the Reds.
Right.
So it's possible that the Brewers could, take 2 of 3 or possibly sweep the Reds. It'd be nice for the Reds to play a little bit of spoiler, and it's right up their alley to do so.
Yeah.
But I don't think that that's going to be the case here. You know what I mean?
And
Obviously.
Who'd have thunk, Pax, right? In the beginning here, Milwaukee was on fire. I mean, they were dominating the division, and then they tailed off. Who knows why?
Yeah, you know what? And it was weird. They were more sellers at the trading deadline than buyers, and it resonated through the team. I mean, I thought that was, I'm like, yeah, how do you be up 4 games and be sellers? But maybe that was part of the plan. Maybe they just knew that they were playing well above their means, because the differences that they made, they got rid of their closer. Their closer's been stinking out loud.
Yeah.
And so it's not like, the moves that they made were correct moves. They got rid of some pieces to get some stuff for their, for the future. But ultimately, it's like it was still a surprise. Like, why didn't you go after some of these players? And their pitching was really good. Their pitching has not been as good as of late. Like
No.
they had really good starting pitching in the beginning of the year, and now all of a sudden it has changed tremendously in terms of, just being able to get wins, and they're having a hard time doing that. So it'll be in a series to watch. The standings right now are as follows, and we'll get into the Yankees for a second and everything that Judge is doing. It's amazing that in New York right now, when he hits a double, there's like grumbles about it because he doesn't hit a home run. It amazes me. And was it yesterday that obviously it wasn't Judge that hit the home run. He hit his 60th yesterday, but the walk-off grand slam to win the game by Stanton to beat the Pirates. Obviously, they needed to be able to get those up and get some distance between the Blue Jays. I think there's only 14 or 15 games left, and there's a 6.5-point lead, game lead. I think that the Yankees have completely gotten, taken care of business here. It's a shame, Susanna, you're just coming on now. I was touting Detroit really well. I'm saying that Detroit could possibly be the division champs at the end of this season, that they've been playing some really good football, and I was happy for you guys. So it's a shame you missed all that. We're talking about baseball now, and your Detroit Tigers just aren't very good.
And Susan, Pags is rude, but good morning to you if you're still there and you still hear me. So.
Oh, she's still here. She's definitely going to watch and such like that. So, right now, obviously, in the American League, you have the Astros. The Astros have won. They've already won the conference. The AL. Yeah. So that's not a big deal. They're about to get their 100th win. They're 8 games above the Yankees. There's no way the Yankees are going to catch them. Cleveland is an interesting thing. Cleveland is right now 6 games up on the White Sox. The White Sox were there. Now they're no longer there. I think Cleveland wraps this up this weekend as well. I think that their magic number, so to speak, is like 3. So between whether it's White Sox losses or their wins, that they wind up clinching that division this weekend. And then, of course, the Yankees, which are 6.5. And in the wild card, Baltimore's trailed off now. There's only 4 games. They're 4 games behind that wild card. I think Seattle's going to wind up taking that third deal. There you go. Morning to you, Mac.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, I think that the Mariners, it's going to be the Mariners versus the Guardians and the Blue Jays versus the Rays, which is going to be a very interesting. Now they're going to have to go up to Toronto, and the big deal is that they are talking about lifting the ban for that, right before that series. So that as of October, they were going to lift the ban, which means that any unvaccinated player from the Rays would be able to play. In Toronto, and I think they're getting pressure from Major League Baseball to do this. They are expecting. Obviously, they're expecting a series to be up in Toronto at least for that. And if Toronto was to win that they would be having home playoffs. And if you can't allow people to come in, it's like all right, what is this really what we're going to do here? COVID's still around, but the whole pandemic is over. And it's time to allow these guys to come in and play. And so we'll see. We'll see if that really occurs. I know that that's been the talk. And ultimately, that could be a big difference for, I think, their best pitcher for the Rays is not vaccinated.
Right.
So That could be a really big deal. And I'm sure that that's part of the reason why they are trying to do that and get that all squared away.
So we're looking probably Yankees versus Houston for the championship, right?
That's if
And-
everybody holds serve. Everybody's
And I-
got to hold serve. Because I'll tell you what, as I look at the Rays and Blue Jays, that's going to be when you have the Guardians and Seattle. There's a possibility that the Guardians lose that.
Yeah.
And I think Seattle's got a pretty good team. That's going to be a pick'em series.
Yeah.
I don't know who's going to do that. Obviously, that's going to be in Cleveland. So is Seattle really been? Seattle was playing strong, then they trailed off.
Mhm.
Are they going to be able to pick it back up again?
I think so.
Obviously, J-Rod's going to do everything he can as a rookie to propel his team. And it
Right.
could be a really nice Cinderella story if they were to come out and win that. But I kind of think that Cleveland's got better pitching is really what it comes down to.
I agree, Pat.
But that would mean Rays and the Blue Jays are going to, could possibly play against the Yankees.
Yeah.
And both of them have really had the Yankees number as of late.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the Yankees are hoping and praying that Cleveland wins.
Definitely.
They're going to be rooting for Cleveland, and then because I think that would be the better matchup for them. I think that they could beat Cleveland, and I think that Houston is going to be able to beat the Rays or
Oh, yeah.
the Blue Jays.
Yeah,
Either way.
I agree. I agree. Rays are tough though, but I think Houston beats them.
Right, and like I said, those are good pitching matchups, really, with the Astros and the Rays. The Blue Jays, I think, have better bats. I don't think their pitching is as strong.
I agree. I agree with that.
And then on the opposite side, like I said, we have the Dodgers that have already got 103 wins. They're already running away with the NL. They've won the NL so far, the number 1 seed. The Mets have already made the playoffs.
Wouldn't it be something that the Dodgers got knocked out in the first round? I mean,
this is where I think this is set up very perfectly for the Phillies.
Mm-hmm.
The Phillies going up against the Cardinals. I think that we could beat the Cardinals in a 3-game series.
Yes.
And then that would mean that we would go up against the Dodgers after that. And for some reason or another, the Phillies love hitting in LA.
Yeah.
We went out there and won that series. And then they came here and, again, I think we took 3 of 4 over there. We took 3 of 4 from the Dodgers there. They beat us 2 of 3 here, but we wound up winning in 4 games, 4 out of 7 against the Dodgers here. And I don't trust their pitching as well. They've been doing it with their bats, but they have not been pitching so great. And I think that to compete against them and knock them out. And that's if everything in a perfect world. Obviously, they got to get there yet. But
so if the Dodgers get knocked out, they would fire their manager, right? That would make sense.
I don't know. How do you fire him after he wins? He's got back-to-back seasons of 100 wins.
Yeah, that would. Yeah, I don't think that would be right either. Yeah.
So I'd love to see us go up against the Dodgers, but again, we got to take care of business. First, you got to get in the playoffs. We're still, like I said, we got our magic number still at 11, so it's still a lot of games with only a little bit of games left to play. 14 games and our magic number is 11. That's not good enough. We got to be able to, gain some ground in that. And it could be, like I said, this series goes wrong for both for the Phillies. Where if the Brewers take 3 of 4 or sweep the Reds 4 out of 4, and the Phillies have a tough series against the Braves, all of a sudden Milwaukee could be in that wild card spot. So we got to be very careful here. We got to win the game. We got to win these games. We got to at least split with the Braves. I feel like a split would be a win in that regards, because after that we have Washington, and we've just handed Washington their hat every game so far this year. Then we have the Cubs, which is simple, but then we end with the Astros.
Ooh.
Now, at that time, the Astros could be setting up their pitching matchups.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, they're not going to play in the wild card, so they're going to have some time off. So maybe they're not. Maybe they're going to go after trying to be. There's a 4-game difference between the Dodgers and the Astros for the number one in baseball for the best record in baseball.
Right.
So at that point, it could still be close enough that the Astros want to try to play those games. If not, they could be resting players.
Sure. Sure.
So we'll see how that works. I know that happens more in football than in baseball, but
Right.
we'll see. But either way, that's a tough series to end the season on. If we need to win 2 out of 3 against the Astros to get into the playoffs, that's going to be a real tough position to be put in. So we got to win some of these games here and get the ship right. Because I think you need 88 wins, 89 wins to get into the playoffs, and right now the Brewers are 9, and we have it's going to be a tough time going through. But let's talk about something that's kind of historic that's happening here, and it was interesting yesterday because everybody was crying about how the Pirates, who are way out of it, and did not really pitch, 4 straight balls thrown to Judge, and who wants to be known as the guy who gives up the 61st home run?
Very
and
true.
I'm like, why does anybody care about the 61st home run? I wouldn't want to be the guy that lets up the 62nd home run.
Right.
That's that one, and like they talk about, they mentioned the pitcher's name who let up 756 to Bonds, the one that broke Hank Aaron's record. And I'm like, I don't remember that guy's name. And now that you said it, I still don't remember his name.
Yeah, me either.
So why do you, who cares if you're the pitcher that lets up that home run? You competed. You went after him. You know what I mean? It's like, that's what you're there to do. You're there to compete. You don't throw him balls, pitch to him, and that's going to be interesting moving forward. Obviously, let's see who the Yankees got. Oh, the Yankees have the Red Sox. And tonight, this guy's going to be pitching to him because right now, tonight they go up against Wacha. I think that's how you say it. Waka. He's 11-1 with a 2.61 ERA. So he's going to be dealing against them. I'm sure that he's going to be pitching against Judge. That Judge is not going to just get walks and stuff like that. And they are playing in Yankee Stadium, so there are they've got them spots where there's a home run in Yankee Stadium that's not a home run anywhere else in Major League Baseball. So it's possible that they could do that. And the Yankees got a good pitcher going up, Talon. He was 13-5, 4.04 ERA, but even still, he's got 13 wins on the season. That's pretty good for a Yankee. But like I said, chasing after Roger Maris for the AL, the home run record in the American League. I think what he's done this year has been pretty amazing. It's like there's been conversation about whether it's Judge or Ohtani for the MVP. And I can appreciate exactly what Ohtani's been doing, that he's been pitching pretty well. He has been hitting home runs. He's doing real well, but he's got a 265 batting average, or 270 batting average. And the fact that he hit 30 home runs, that's great. He's the first guy ever in Major League Baseball to have 10 wins and 30 home runs. I mean, that's wonderful. That's great. But Judge has been having such a much better year in general.
I agree. Definitely.
That it's if I had a vote, and I don't, I would definitely be voting Judge. That Judge is coming out there. It was funny. I was on my Facebook yesterday, and a Yankees fan said, "Hey, man, you should come up to New York to watch Judge's 61st home run. You should put on the blue pinstripes on your face for one day." And I said, listen, I can appreciate greatness. It doesn't matter whose team it's on. When somebody is doing great things, I like to pay attention. So I am paying attention to everything to Judge, what Judge is doing. However, you have a better chance of seeing the Pope ice skate on the North Pole than seeing me ever put on Yankee pinstripes on my face.
And how much do you think that 60-second home run ball will go for? I mean, that's got to be out of this world.
Well, it's You know, I don't know where he hits it and who catches it. The guy who caught the 60th home run gave it back to Judge. So that was kind of cool of him. It's like, hey, if you're going to, I mean, that's not something you hear because everybody wants to sell history. You know what I mean? Oh, that's a big payday. You catch that ball, you could be, $10,000, $50,000, to hit this, you caught the 60th home run and you just gave it back to him. I hope that Judge took care of him. I hope that Judge gave him a signed jersey because that's what that's worth. It's no longer a bat. You get a jersey signed. That's something that you want to do like that. Now, the 61st home run is going to be worth money. The 62nd home run is going to be worth much, much more. Obviously. So the one that ties it, I can see that maybe going. I look at number 60 is worth 10,000, 61 worth 25,000, 62 is worth 100,000 or more.
Yeah, definitely more.
If I was just somebody who was pricing out the home runs in terms of how much that ball is worth, because ultimately, I mean, whoever catches that number 62, and hopefully it won't be Zach Hampel, who's going to be trying to be at that game and trying to be right in the right spot to be able to catch that home run, as he's gotten all those other home runs as he knocks over those little kids to get the balls and home run balls and stuff like that. That being said, I hope that whoever does catch that ball does the right thing. You know what I mean? Hey, listen, I understand that you want money and it's a big deal. You don't have to give it back. It's not, you better get something from the team. I got to imagine that the Yankees would offer season tickets for the next year in a very good spot to get that ball back. That's what you're looking at. You're looking at signed jersey, signed bat, signed baseball. Like I want the gamut if I'm catching that ball. Yeah, because that's $100,000. That's $100,000 in your hands. And then of course the problem with that is that the 63rd home run and 64th home run, whatever the last home run is also going to be worth a lot because 62 breaks the record, but 64, 65 becomes the record. Sure. And that ball's going to be worth some money too.
And I hope it's a little kid that catches it too. Right. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the little kids get trampled on during those types of situations that there's going to be just way too many. And the worst part about it is if the little kid does catch that ball, somebody could go right into the glove and steal it. Grab it. You know what I mean? And that's what I can foresee happening. Yeah. It's like, so that's why in my case, truth of the matter is that I hope he hits it into a bullpen. You know what I mean? In a spot where nobody can get it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, realistically, that would be the better thing to do. You know what I mean? I'm a big believer. It's like winning the lottery when you catch a baseball like that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, you've changed your world because you have a baseball now that's worth a lot of money that people are automatically going to find who you are and reach out to you and do that. Because ultimately, the moment I catch that baseball, you're not going to see that baseball again. It's going in my pants. You know what I mean? If I caught that ball, it would go right in my pants because I'm not getting a chance to anybody to steal it. You're going to have to go after me in a way that you may not be prepared for. And I'm not showing that ball to anybody else. It's staying there until I get out of there.
All right. Okay.
That's what that is. Because like I said, because then people are going to start tackling each other. This is New York. You know what I mean? Yep. Let's be for real. You're going to get tackled. People are going to go crazy there trying to get that ball because they know what type of payday comes with it. So I will not be at the game. You don't have to worry about that ball being in my pants.
I mean, talk about how crazy New York fans could be. I was at a Yankee Red Sox game, of course, and two brothers were there, and they got in a fight, and one killed the other one. It's like, are you kidding me? Why would you kill your brother over baseball?
Yeah, that's what happens. Sports is a funny thing. So the first time the one time I went to, I think it was Old Yankee Stadium. It was right before it closed. I went to go watch a Yankees Red Sox game.
Sure.
And it was when Roger Clemens was going for his second time going for his 300th win.
Okay.
He lost that game too. He lost that game as well. But it was the first time I had ever been to Yankee Stadium. It was the first time I had ever been to a baseball game that didn't have the Phillies playing.
Wow.
You know, at the time I had my girlfriend was from Lowell, Massachusetts, and was a Red Sox fan, so she was the one that got the tickets, and we went up there. And it's like I'm big on history. I love history, and I wore my Reggie Jackson jersey that day because, again, I didn't know. First off, she was a Red Sox fan who wore some red.
Right.
She didn't wear Red Sox gear because, again, we were going into Yankee Stadium, and I kind of looked at that a little bit as like a Dallas Cowboys fan going into the vet
Sure.
in Philly.
Sure.
That you're going to get that type of interaction, and I'm not prepared to fight stadium people to defend her honor.
Right.
So she wore a little bit of red, but and I figured I'd wear the Yankees jersey just to say face. Now we're talking again. This is what, close to 50 ago now.
Yeah.
More closer to 15. Yeah, somewhere around 15 years ago. It was interesting. It was an interesting game to watch. Obviously, the Yankees lost that game. It was his second attempt at trying to hit 300. I think it took him 5 attempts to get his 300th win. But I love the history of Yankee Stadium. And then when I went to the new Yankee Stadium, they wouldn't let me in with my face paint. So I was a little frustrated about that.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's actually a rule. They actually showed me the written rule going into Yankee Stadium. And it was because of some other situation that happened literally the night before. But I had to clean off my face. Of course, when you have red makeup on and you try to clean it off without taking a shower, it just made me look like I was about to have a heart attack with a pink face.
Right.
So it was the goofiest thing in the world. But they did let me in after I wiped my face off. And even the guy told me, he's like, listen, don't put it back on again because you will get kicked out. And they had me marked. They watched me. They were showing, they had the picture around for everybody to see. All the guards had the picture. So when I would go up and they saw the stripes still on the side of my head, they're like, you're the guy. All right, you're fine now. You're fine. And it was funny to me. And because I said I don't bring my makeup with me to the ballpark. You know what I mean? No. If it gets smudged, it gets smudged. End of story. I'm just deal with it smudged. So when they tell me to take it off, I had a rag to be able to do that, and got some water and just wiped it off and end the story. Because we had I think it was like 100 people with us for that Yankee game. From Philadelphia, and of course we lost that game in the I think it was the 10th inning.
Wow.
So, but it is what it is, and that's that. You got to abide by the rules. The people, the guards are, only doing what somebody else is telling them to do. So I don't ever fight with. I tried to escalate it some, and they were just like, "Yeah, no, you ain't coming in." Tough.
Right.
You either wipe your face off or you don't. And I just, I'm like, listen, we got 100 people here. I'm just going to wipe my face off and get in there. That's the end of that story. And that was that. So, you got to do what you got to do what you're supposed to do. So, I'm trying to see if there's anything else that's going on in the world of sports besides baseball and football. I mean, I keep talking, I keep looking to see if there's anything going on in basketball, but no, not really. Other than the fact, there was some talk, a little bit of Philly talk here.
Okay.
Ben Simmons was on JJ Redick's podcast and said that he actually enjoyed playing in Philadelphia.
Really?
And he thought that Philadelphia, he said it out loud that, Simmons still has love for Philly. His brother lives here still. That he enjoyed playing in Philly. It's he feels that that the Philadelphia fan base feels that he doesn't like Philly. The truth of the matter is that we're not really fond of him and the way that this whole situation occurred. And that's really, Philadelphians have short memories until you don't want to play here. And then that is ingrained. That is like stamped on us forever. You wanted to leave here and you didn't want to play here. And because of that, we're not going to like you. I mean, I think of certain people that fall into that category. Scott Rowland. I mean, he was like he was quite possibly a Hall of Fame third baseman, the best third baseman that I would say that the Phillies had since Mike Schmidt.
Sure.
And, he wanted to leave. J.D. Drew, not wanting to play in Philadelphia, not wanting to sign here. That guy was maligned every time he came here. And he never turned out to be as good as he was supposed to be anyways.
Nope.
But, I mean, he was always booed every time he came here. That's probably one of the bigger ones. And Ben Simmons, both of them are, very much maligned here and are never going to – you're never going to be very comfortable here coming into town as an opposing player because of the way you guys left Philly. Because
they didn't even let him play when the guys played last year, right? I mean,
he didn't play at all.
Yeah.
He wasn't trying to get on the court. He was like, and of course, the Nets felt so much differently about that. They were protecting one of their own. They crushed us that game. They absolutely crushed us. I think that it was like a 45-point game or a 40-point game. Where they just beat us so tremendously. But it had to do more with the fact that I think that the Sixers just weren't mentally prepared for what the Nets were about to do because the Nets had backs up. They're like, okay, you're messing with one of our now. We're going to come out and smack you in the mouth. And the Sixers just were prepared for it. And it showed, I mean, we wound up losing by 40 points that game. But, it is what it is. But he said, that he playing with Philly was incredible. He enjoyed his time in Philly and that there should be no hard feelings. And that all Philadelphia fans should just, hey, listen, life goes on. We've all moved on here. When I see, I'm going to say hi.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm sure he's not going to be saying hi to a lot of the Philly fans. I can't imagine that they're going to be doing that type of stuff. But I found that story very interesting. And JJ Redick was pretty upfront about talking about the lack of shooting as part of the stuff that was going on. I was surprised how he talked about it. Like it was, I watched the interview and I'm like, JJ Redick is coming right out and just saying, hey, you didn't shoot the ball. And Philadelphia fans feel very strongly about that. It's like, and truth of the matter is that when you look at over Ben Simmons' career, he has support from the Philadelphia fan base.
And
he
was always like a point guard anyway, Pags, right? He was a point guard at forward, and he was a defensive. He was one of the best defensive player in the league. I mean, it wasn't about the points. So I don't know why they're having such a big deal about it now.
Yeah, but when he wanted to score points, he could score points. Like I said, when you're underneath the basket and there's nobody around, and all you got to do is jump up and hit a dunk, and the fact that he passed it out, and they wound up because of that, it wound up being a shot clock violation. In one of the biggest games of the year. Obviously, it was Game 7 of the playoffs. And that we wind up losing, and you can almost turn back to say, hey, had you made that dunk, we'd have been up by 5 rather than by 3, and a shot clock violation.
Right.
So every momentum changed 100% with that play, and that's a big deal. That's a very big deal. And again, they like to say that Philadelphia sports fans are crazy and that they're mean. And whatever. The problem is that we're also very smart. And Philadelphia sports fans are absolutely great at knowing what's going on and what's happening here. And when somebody decides that they're not going to do their job, it's going to come out. And that's what happened here. I feel like that they were just stuck, that he did that play, and that really led to the loss that occurred, because after that play, Atlanta then tied the game up, took the lead, and never looked back.
Yeah.
So,
And, it sort of reminds me of Patrick Ewing when he was playing against I'm trying to remember the team he was going up against in the championship. I'll come to me. But he was going down the lane with the basketball, and Patrick Ewing slams it home all the time. Well, this time he decided to do a finger roll, and the finger roll goes off the basket, and the Knicks lose. I mean, they had that game, and I'll forever be remembered, not as a great center he was, but a guy who didn't make the finger roll.
Or the guy that, I mean, as great as he was and as great as that team was, they could never get over the hump.
No,
that they made it to one. They made it to one championship and lost, from what I remember.
Yeah.
So that's what I remember from Patrick Ewing. The fact that they were a great team that just could not get over the hump and would always wind up losing. And did they lose to the Lakers that year? Is that who they lost to? I assume was the Lakers.
I don't think so. I think it was maybe
Again, because I don't remember. I don't remember that far
the
back.
Lakers. Yeah,
Because it wasn't the Suns. Or I guess it could have been. It might have been the Warriors, but I don't think the Warriors were that good back then.
No, I can't remember for the life of me. But another thing about the Knicks, when Patrick Ewing was playing, he never had a true number two. Right, Starks was there, but he wasn't really a number two. Like, you got Jordan, who has Pippen. You got Kareem and Magic. They never had another option for Patrick Ewing. So all they would do is wait for Patrick Ewing to go down low or get the pass up high, and he was double, triple covered. And I kind of felt bad for the guy there. You don't really have another option for Patrick Ewing to go with the ball. So. They knew he was getting it, and they were ready for it, Pax.
Yeah, and I mean, they have two championships. It was 70 and 73. I'm trying to find out when they lost the finals. They won 3 rounds. It doesn't say who, though. Let's see who that was. I'm trying to pull it up on my thing here. They beat the Miami Heat.
Right.
And the San Antonio Spurs lost
go.
it in 5. Yeah, and that was in '99. So that was so that was the Twin Towers there, wasn't it? That was with not Twin.
Cartwright.
Yeah.
Cartwright.
No, that was with Robinson, the Admiral, and Duncan.
Could have been, Pax. It could have been. It could have been. I think they're both
that's-
on the Spurs together. Yeah.
At that time, because it was just about the Admiral's time. Because I remember the commercials, the shaving commercials. He was teaching them how to shave. They had Gillette commercials back then. Just talking about times of old there. It's like I remember that whole commercial and everything. He's like, it was for his gel. I don't think it had to do with the razor. It had to do with the gel. He's like, I was so embarrassed, but and I was always a big fan of David Robinson because obviously he was a Navy guy.
Sure.
So he, although I can't imagine what he was going to do in the Navy because he was just way too tall.
I think they were going to do it. He was going to be a jet fighter. They were going to redo this cockpit or something for him. I'm not sure, but
there was no way that was going to happen. They can't redo that whole cockpit to make that happen. But like I said, he was. I know he was only supposed to serve 2 years, and I think that they bought him out of those 2 years' time because it's obviously he wanted to play basketball, and there was really no place for him to do that. But and actually, it wound up being better for them having him play basketball because he was like a walking advertisement for them.
Exactly.
The Navy.
Going to say that.
And he was a great player, such a great player. I mean, that was when Navy was even good in the NCAA because he was able to propel them in the tournaments. It was like one of the only times that Navy actually did well in the NCAA March
Yeah,
Madness.
yeah. It's weird. It's weird how that has fallen apart. I mean, even football bags. I mean, they had such really good teams, and not that they're bad, but they really don't win any games anymore.
Yeah. So it's interesting how the Army actually has a pretty good team and has been
Yeah.
winning games a lot, but
Yeah.
obviously they couldn't beat Navy last year. That's even one was 8-3 and the other one was
Yeah. Right.
the underdog won again. That's
Yeah.
Navy. So
Yeah.
I am always excited when that occurs. I love that's one of the things I love to say to Army guys. We're all on the same team, but I have 4 words: go Navy, beat Army.
Right.
So that's
Exactly.
who cares what the other games are all about? All you got to do is beat Army, and it's a successful season.
Right. Right.
But and I think about what's happening here as we're in the middle towards the latter part of September. Pretty soon we're going to have to start getting Carter back on the hook because
Yeah.
hockey season is around the corner here.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to hear what he's got to say. So we're going to have to, Carter, if you're listening, start getting your notepad ready. Let us know what's going on because
Right.
hockey season is about to begin. And unfortunately, the Flyers are not going to be very good. It's like I'd love to say that they're going to be. Sean Couturier is now found out he's got a herniated disc, that it's possible that he could be out for a couple of months, quite possibly the entire season. We're still dealing with Ellis, who signed that big contract and has not played but 1 game for the Flyers, it seems, and has been hurt since then. I mean, obviously we have a new coach, and the coach sent out a letter to somebody very specific. That I got the chance to be able to read. It was put out on Twitter from Tortorella to one of the season ticket holders, and he was pretty honest and upfront and saying, "Listen, I can't tell you what this season's going to bring, but I will tell you that you are not going to be embarrassed there on the ice. That
Right.
we're going to be prepared to play, and we're going to be a tough opponent to play against. You may not get the wins that you're supposed to get, or all the wins that we want to get, but it's possible that you are not going to be embarrassed to come watch this team play." And I hope that that's the case because I agree with you. You've said it a few times that the NHL is a much better product when the Flyers have a good
Oh
team.
yeah. Oh, definitely. It's a major city, major hockey program. The Rangers and the Islanders. I know Carter's a huge Islander fan, hates the Rangers, but I hope he at least respects what they've done. I think he does. That's going to be a clash this year, Pags. I mean, they're both really good teams. They both got a shot at winning the Stanley Cup. I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts about, who do you think's really going to win it all, Pags?
Well, I think that the Rangers have a better chance than the Islanders. I think that the Islanders took a couple of steps back last year, and that they just don't have the, they can beat the Flyers because I think that the Flyers are even less than the Islanders right now. The Rangers themselves do have the right pieces in place, and Sesterson, however I say his name, I know I just crushed the goalie's name, is they're going to go as far as he could take them. And he had a really good run in the playoffs, but obviously he ran into the buzzsaw. That's the Lightning. And I thought that was going to be the case. They won those first 2 games, and then the Lightning just steamrolled them the rest of the way. And I did think that the Lightning was going to wind up against the Avalanche, but obviously the Avalanche proved to be a little bit stronger. I think the Avalanche make a return. I think that the Lightning take a step backwards, that they're not going to be as strong there. I think Buffalo with a new coach is not going to be really, or not Buffalo, Boston with a new coach is not going to be real strong. I think that Carolina could take that step up. Florida tried to do their thing. They had a really good regular season and then fell apart in the playoffs. Ottawa has now got Giroux. They've added some pieces that they're going to be a pretty formidable team. It's going to be an interesting season to find out. Like I think Detroit's gotten a lot better because Steve Eiserman is in control of that franchise now. So the Penguins, no. The Penguins are definitely. I'll be surprised. Actually, the Penguins are usually a very good regular season team, but I don't think that the Penguins are a very good team. That's why they always get knocked out in the first round because they're old. That team is just very, very old, and it's they just don't have the goaltender to be able to back them up. When they had Marc-Andre Fleury, the entire team was much younger. Well, that entire team is just about still intact, and they are a lot older now. And I just don't think that they at the end of the season they don't have the horsepower to continue going. At that point, it feels like a used car, an old used car when I look at the Penguins. And I'm not trying to be biased when I have that conversation. I hate the Penguins. I hate the Penguins. They're on the same level as the Dallas Cowboys for me. So, but that being said, I'm also a realist, and I understand that they still have good players. Sidney Crosby, as much as I hate him, is still a good player, and he's got good people around him still that he's going to get his points. It's just, I don't think that they have they don't have the power to be able to do the things that they want to do, and I think that they're going to fall apart.
You mentioned the Detroit Red Wings and the Chicago Blackhawks. How long has it been since they had good teams? I mean, these were, part of the original eight, if I'm not mistaken. They were perhaps the two best teams at that time in the whole league. How come it's taken so long for them to get back to respectability, Pags?
Well, I in Detroit's situation, I mean, Chicago is not that far removed from Stanley Cup championships. So like that's they go very cyclical. They get very big highs and then they've been on the downslope for a little while. So now they have hit bottom and they've been it's a full rebuild. So they're going to start coming back up. That trajectory is going to come back up. They're going to have another tough season. I think this year they're going to try to get the number one pick to try to get one of these two guys. And I wouldn't be surprised if it happens the exact same way as it did back when we got JVR and they got Kane, that, the number 1 and 2 pick is Chicago and Philly. And because there's two generational talents that I feel are coming out of this draft. You got Bedard and McTavish. Both are very good players out of Canada that are coming out into this draft. And anybody who gets those top 2 picks are going to be able to, grab one of those guys. And I think Chicago is going to be one of them. I think Philly could be the other one. And, I hope that we get the number 2 pick because I think that everybody believes that Bedard is the better player, but I believe McTavish is the better player. And as much as people are going to maybe disagree with me there, again, I think Bedard's a little it becomes more of an ego thing where his ego is going to be, he's going to be a good player. He's going to be actually a great player in this league, but I think his ego is going to make him tough to play with, where I think McTavish, because his father played in the league and he's been brought up in a hockey culture. He's been in that locker room a lot longer than like Bedard has. You know what I mean? Because I don't remember. Bedard's father could have also played hockey. I don't know that, but his name is not McTavish. And when you think of Craig McTavish, I think of Stanley Cup wins, and I think of just a great player. Throughout, for hockey for a long time. And now you got your kid out there to do this. It's going to be, I would much rather have McTavish than Bedard. But again, I think that that's what's going on. When it comes to Detroit, however, I think that Detroit had bad GMs, that their GMs have not been able to live up to the hype. And that the moves that they were making. See, this is where GMs are a big deal in hockey. You have to have a very good GM who understands the league, understands how contracts are done. Like you have to, there's a lot to manage. And it's different. The salary cap in hockey is much harder to manage than it is in football. you know,
Sure.
and now they've got Steve Eiserman in place. And as much as, you know, Steve Eiserman wore number 19, and it's ingrained in my head the series that he had against the Flyers back in '97, when they just had that choking situation and they killed us. They literally
Right.
killed us that year. I was living in Detroit during that time, and
Wow.
so I got to see it firsthand, with a whole bunch of Detroit people around me wearing my
Yeah.
Flyers jersey, and just, you know, it not being very good to watch. But ultimately, now that he's back in charge, he is somebody that does understand the league, does understand talent, does know how to build a team, because he was the captain of that team for a very long time. And I think that they're not there yet. You know, that they're going to make another leap. They may wind up in the number 7 or 8 seed this year, possibly, or
Right.
just miss the playoffs. But I think that they are on that trajectory to be able to become relevant again, where Hockey Town could come back. You know, and that's, you know, Detroit was known as Hockey Town for a long time. As you said, they were part of the original 6, you know,
Sure.
that were out there. So my expectation is that, yeah, there's going to be a coming back of Detroit here within the next 2 years, because I trust Eiserman. You know, I would trust Eiserman if I was a Detroit Red Wings fan.
Well,
And
speaking of hockey teams that have really fallen, the Canadians. I mean, we're talking probably the greatest hockey team in the history of hockey, and man, they've fallen back.
yeah, well, you know what? You think about that. You think about it in COVID, that they were in the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
How that team, you know, in the bubble, they went to the Stanley Cup.
Sure.
The year before that, we beat them in the first round of the playoffs, but it was a tough series.
Yeah.
You know, they've got a couple of good players, but Price was, you know, again, Price has gotten old, and that's really Carey Price was the one who really was initiating that, and he was such a great goaltender for such a long time, and he's just, you know, age is caught up to him a little bit. You know what I mean? It just they don't have the defense to be able to stop the puck before getting the Price, and I think that's part of the issue. When they played, you know, they have the speed. Suzuki is one of the is so fast and so talented on the ice, that plays up there for the Canadians, that you know, it's amazing what he's able to do, but he can't be everything. You need to have defense, and that's part of the problem. That's part of the biggest problem with the Flyers. The Flyers' defense is lacking. The defense makes too many mistakes in the defensive zone, and they give the puck away, and goals get scored that way. And that's what's happening with Montreal. Their defense lacks. Their offense is there, but their defense lacks. And when they don't have that defense, the goalie's going to be let out to dry. And it doesn't matter. When you become a shooting gallery, eventually goals are going to get in, because it's hard to stop a puck going 110 miles an hour. You know, it just is. You know, and ultimately they're going to light the lamp. And, you know, it's, yeah, I have no love lost for Montreal, but again, I do appreciate the fact that they have won as many Stanley Cups as they have. Up until last year, I think, or up until the last decade, they were the only hockey team that was able to win a cup in every decade. You know, so that they usually would win one, and no, absolutely not, Chris. Wayne Simmons has been too old to play since before they got rid of him. You know, so I trust me. I make jokes every time I see Wayne Simmons out there. It looks like it's time for him to take a nap. So I literally, I think that he just doesn't get much playing time. Let him. So I think that, you know, Toronto's another one. Toronto's like always really good. You know, they win that division, blah, blah, blah. First round exit. Can't win a playoff games. Can't win them major playoff games or a series. And that's a shame for Toronto, but I ain't crying about it. You know what I mean? I don't, again, I feel that they are like one of those cursed franchises. But right now, so are the Flyers. So I can't really argue much about that.
One other hockey question for you, Pax. One other hockey question for you. Two of the greatest hockey players of all time, right? you got Gordie Howe, and you got the King himself, right? I'm trying to remember his name real quick. I don't know why
Wayne
I can't
Gretzky?
remember his name. That's Wayne Gretzky, two of the greatest ever to play the game. If you were to have a first pick on a team, who would you take?
Wayne Gretzky.
All right.
Without a doubt in my mind. I mean, not that Gordie Howe was an amazing player and had the longevity, and like he's the only player to play in 5 decades. You know what I mean? He
Right.
literally he played with his kids. He played professional hockey at like 56 years old and such. And
Right.
so I mean, he had the longevity, and when you have any type of thing happen in sports and it's called after you, when you get a Gordie Howe hat trick, where you get a goal and assist in a fight, it's like that's a Gordie Howe hat trick. When you get something called after your name, that's amazing. That being said, the ability that Wayne Gretzky had, it's your peripheral vision. Here was what made Wayne Gretzky so great. Your peripheral vision for a normal human being is at about 160. So when you put your arms out like this, your arms have to be a little forward to be able to see both hands at the same time. The further you get away at 180, you don't typically see that.
Right.
Wayne Gretzky's case, he was able to see at 210 degrees.
Wow.
So it was almost like he was able to see he had eyes in the back of his head. And because of that sight, he was able to see what was happening. And Yari Curry knew all that, and he was able to put the puck in the net. So, I mean, you think of that about the Hall of Famers that he played with, but even when he left and he went to the Kings and then went to the Rangers, he still had that peripheral vision. It wasn't as good with the Rangers because obviously he was getting older and that was starting to shrink again. But ultimately, when he was with the Oilers, and the way that they had that style, I mean, it was Glenn Sather, I think, was the coach of there. It was like, hey, let's get incidental penalties, and we're going to play. Playing 4-on-4, there was just too much speed on the ice.
Yeah,
you just couldn't compete with them, and that's how they won most of their games. But
and one other point about Gordie Howe I want to give you. When Gretzky played, he had goons to protect him, right? Gordie Howe was his own goon. I mean, you ain't gonna fight this guy. I'll knock your teeth out. So that's one of the points of giving Gretzky back.
Yeah, and that different, much different league back then. It was a lot more rough and tumble. You were able to get those fights. Obviously, they still had fights, but they protected Gretzky. Gretzky didn't get in many fist fights. He did fight a couple of times, I think, but obviously he's fighting guys who also didn't know how to fight. So those were those times where you'd wind up in those situations. But ultimately, I mean, both Hall of Fame players, both amazing.
Right.
Obviously, you don't score as many goals as Gretzky did, without a little help from a lot of people. But Gordie Howe is still the man was the man for a long, long time. So, that all being said, hey, listen, this 2 hours went fast.
It did.
It's like, hey, it's just two guys talking. Next thing you know, 2 hours go by. So, everybody, thank you very much for hanging with us today. Tune in tomorrow where Jack will be back. We will have on Byron Williams. We'll have on Keith Engel. Everybody's going to come join us tomorrow, and we'll start talking about some more football, find out about who wins this Steelers-Browns game, and so on and so forth, who wins in baseball and what have you. So everybody, have a great day, and thank you for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.